Hey church family, I wanted to post another video for you guys. I have a song that I wanted to show you guys, a new song during this Holy Week leading up to Easter. I wanted to really bring an encouraging song so that you could just listen to it throughout this Holy Week leading up to the remembrance of Christ's death, His burial and resurrection. It really focuses on Christ's physicalness, the realness of Christ and His heart beating and what it really meant for Him to be one of us, a man coming down and walking with us and living the life with us. So in 1 Peter 1, it tells us how we were purchased through the blood of Christ. 1 Peter 1, 18 and 19 read, "Knowing that you were not redeemed with perishable things like silver or gold from your futile way of life, inherited from your forefathers, but with precious blood, as of a lamb unblemished and spotless, the blood of Christ." This is a precious, precious blood that flowed through the veins of Christ, the only begotten Son of God, the unique Son of God, who walked among us, gave His blood so that He could ransom us and purchase us for the Father. And so this is what we celebrate in Easter. We celebrate the death of Christ, the blood that was shed to pay the payment of our sin, and that we now have life eternal through His death. I don't think we really think about the physical body of Christ that often. I think when we read the scriptures, we don't really think of Him as an actual man. We think of God as just being God. We see that Christ always sits down and He eats and He drinks with His disciples. So Christ had a real physical body, a real physical heart. And do we stop and think of the moment that His heart stopped beating? Do we think of this man who was alive and then was dead? Do we think of this man who had blood flowing through his veins, and then that blood was pouring out of his flesh and his heart stopped? But then just as He was physical before the cross, He was physical after the cross, because that heart started to beat again. Breath started to fill His lungs again. Blood flowed through His veins again. And then Christ ascended physically. He didn't just vanish or disappear. We read that Christ ascended physically and they saw Him rise up into the clouds. And in Daniel 7, we have this description of His ascension into heaven before the Ancient of Days. Daniel 7, 13 and 14. "I kept looking in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven, one like a son of man was coming. And He came up to the Ancient of Days, and was presented before Him. And to Him was given dominion, glory, and a kingdom, that all the peoples, nations, and men of every language might serve Him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which will not pass away, and His kingdom is one which will not be destroyed." This is the physical Christ raising from the dead, His physical body ascending into heaven before Yahweh God. God the Father giving His Son all dominion, all authority. And now because of this, because Christ has dominion and authority, we now have life. Our hearts beat for Him. Romans 5:18 says, "So then as through one transgression there resulted condemnation to all men, even so through one act of righteousness there resulted justification to life to all men." We now have life because the life of Christ that was lived, the work that He did, everything that we've been learning about, His ministry, we now have life because the perfect life He lived, the death that He died, and then His physical resurrection and His ascension. So I have a new song that I wanted to introduce to you guys, something to just listen to throughout the rest of this week, to really focus on Christ being alive for Easter and what that really means for us. His heart beats, His blood begins to flow, waking up what was dead a moment ago. and his heart beats. Now everything has changed, 'cause the blood that brought us peace with God is racing through his veins, and his heart beats. His heart beats. He breathes in, his living lungs expand. The heavy air surrounding death turns to breath again. And he breathes out his word in flesh once more. The Lamb of God slain for us is a lion ready to roar, and his heart beats. So crown him the Lord of life, crown him the Lord of love, crown him the Lord of all. He took one breath, put death to death. Where is your sting, O grave? How great is your defeat? I know his heart beats. He rises, glorified in flesh, clothed in immortality, the firstborn from the dead. And he rises, his work's already done, so he's resting as he rises to reclaim the bride he won. His heart beats. So crown him the Lord of life, crown him the Lord of love, crown him the Lord of all. He took one breath, put death to death. Where is your sting, O grave? How great is your defeat? I know his heart beats. The last enemy to be destroyed is death. The last enemy to be destroyed is death. He was reigning until no enemy is left. The last enemy to be destroyed is death. His heart beats, he will never die again. I know that death no longer has dominion over him. So my heart beats with the rhythm of the saints as I look for the seeds the King has sown to burst up from the graves. I know he took one breath and put death to death. Where is your sting, O grave? How great is your defeat?